Steelers fans, an end of an era in Pittsburgh is here as head coach Mike Tomlin has officially announced that he is stepping away as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers after a 19-year tenure as the head man here in Pittsburgh. We will have a new head coach in the Steel City in 2026, the fourth head coach in Steelers history in the Super Bowl era. Now, we're going to be reacting to this here, guys. We're ripping this video as soon as we possibly can to get you guys the breaking news here and probably the biggest news story for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last several years and what is going to be a very interesting head coaching search here over the next several days and weeks. So if you guys don't want to miss anything, all the coaches that they're meeting with, all the coaches that they're interviewing, all that great stuff, and then eventually when they hire the fourth head coach in Steelers history in the Super Bowl era, we're going to be going live with a breaking news live stream. We're also going to be going live right now to talk about Mike Tomlin stepping away after 19 years as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is why you click that subscribe button, guys. We're going to have extensive 2026 offseason coverage for your Pittsburgh Steelers, and a new era will be beginning here in Pittsburgh next season. All right, so the news was broken by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler today, saying breaking news, Mike Tomlin is stepping down as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. Sources tell me and Adam Schefter he notified the team that he's leaving after 19 years. The league's longest tenured coach has 193 wins, 8 playoff victories, and a Super Bowl. And then also it's being reported by Jordan Schultz that Mike Tomlin is at least expected to take at least 1 year in the media and get a pretty hefty contract there for the 1 year in media that he's expected to do. Now, keep in mind that Steelers do hold the rights to Mike Tomlin's services as of right now because they're not firing Tomlin. Tomlin is stepping away, just like Sean Payton did with the New Orleans Saints a few years back. And then just a reminder, the Saints were able to get a first-round pick and a second-round pick in a trade when they traded Sean Payton to the Denver Broncos. So I would expect Tomlin to take a year off here and then eventually for him to pick his new team, and the Steelers would be getting a pretty decent package for Mike Tomlin's services for the 2027 NFL Draft. So not only will the new head coach that's coming into Pittsburgh here have 12 draft picks heading into the 2026 offseason, but also they're going to have a pretty decent amount of draft picks and probably early draft picks heading into 2027 as well. So, I think that the groundwork has been set here for a full-blown rebuild here in Pittsburgh. Now, maybe it's a little bit more of a retooling than a true rebuild, but I do think that the Steelers are going to be bringing in a younger quarterback. I think this all but confirms that Aaron Rodgers will not be returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers next year and will likely retire. Honestly, it might be the same thing with Cam Hayward. And if Cam Hayward wants to play another season, it would not surprise me because the Steelers are likely on their way to a rebuild that they end up trading Cam Hayward. It wouldn't surprise me if they shop TJ Watt this offseason. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and shop Jalen Ramsey or let go of him, let go of Patrick Queen, some of these older players that, maybe don't have a future with the Pittsburgh Steelers under new leadership. And, it is an end of an era, all right? It seemed like, Mike Tomlin brought in Aaron Rodgers for one last ride here along with Cam Hayward, and obviously it didn't end the way that we were all hoping for, but Mike Tomlin goes out with 19 straight non-losing seasons. That is an incredible feat. He's going to leave the Steelers as a Super Bowl champion. As far as I'm concerned, Coach T is always going to be a Steelers legend. The second half of his tenure here in Pittsburgh wasn't good enough, plain and simply, guys. 5 straight blowout losses in the playoffs, 7 straight losses in the playoffs, 9 straight years without a playoff win, pretty much half of his tenure. He did not win a playoff game here in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure Coach T would have loved to have some playoff success again here in Pittsburgh after really having playoff success early on in his Steelers tenure. But he's going to leave the organization with the highest win percentage of any head coach in team history, and he will leave a legacy as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers after 19 years here. But after everything that has happened here, 9 straight years without a playoff win, all this different stuff. I think with the draft picks coming up, all this different, all these different contributing factors, I think, the timing is right for a changing of the guard here in Pittsburgh, get a new, fresh voice in the building as the new leader of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's going to create a really exciting and really fun offseason here as this team looks to embark on a new journey with a new head coach here in the Steel City. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. We're going to talk about some potential replacement options here in the second half of this this video. But let me know your one-word reaction to Mike Tomlin stepping away as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at GLD. While I tell you about today's sponsor, let me know your one-word reaction to Mike Tomlin stepping down as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at GLD. And let's be real, guys. Buying men's jewelry used to be, and really is still, a complete nightmare. It's low-quality junk usually that snaps after a week, or it's insanely overpriced with ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD. They've completely changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike a lot of other companies, GLD uses only real gold, none of that cheap stuff, and every single stone is meticulously hand set. Plus, their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference. Now, you guys can actually take a look at my GLD pendant that they were able to provide for me this season. Guys, I absolutely love it. I wear it on most of our Steelers Talk watch parties. I love the way that it shines. And guys, I don't have to tell you about that feeling when you put on a new chain and a really good piece of jewelry. It just hits different and completely elevates your entire fit, from the confidence that you feel, the compliments that you get, the way you carry yourself, all change instantly. And GLD has everything from chains to pendants to rings, earrings, and even fully iced out watches if you're Shadur Sanders. Whatever your style is, they've got you covered. And listen, don't just take my word for it. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 five-star reviews back it up. Not to mention, it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. And the best part about GLD is that every single piece is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. And a big thank you to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Now, Art Rooney II did just put out a statement. The owner of the team says, during our meeting today, Coach Tomlin informed me that he has decided to step down as our head coach. Obviously, I am extremely grateful to Mike for all the hard work, dedication, and successes we have had over his last 19 years. It's hard for me to put into words the level of respect and appreciation I have for Coach Tomlin. He guided the franchise to our 6th Super Bowl championship and made the playoffs 13 times during his tenure, including winning the AFC North 8 times in his career. His track record of never having a losing season in 19 years will likely never be duplicated. My family and I and everyone connected to the Steelers management are forever grateful for the passion and dedication Mike Tomlin has devoted to Steelers football. And, you know, that's a really heartfelt statement there from Art Rooney. It's honestly a little bit sad, and I think it shows that, you know, if Tomlin wanted to come back for a 20th season, he would have been able to come back. But, you know, I think that he did a good job laying out his legacy here in Pittsburgh. I mean, only 4 seasons in 19 years you actually win a playoff game, but 13 playoff appearances, 8 division championships, a Super Bowl championship, 2 AFC conference championships. You know, this guy, you know, leaves the Pittsburgh Steelers without ever having a losing season. That is something, now that the era is over, to look back on and appreciate and thank Mike Tomlin for his service, man. 19 years here in Pittsburgh. It certainly was a great ride for Mike Tomlin, but I do think it's the right time for a new era here in Pittsburgh. And I'm very excited about the prospect of getting a new head coach here in Pittsburgh. As we know, the Pittsburgh Steelers have an excellent track record of finding the right leaders for their organization. They've gone 3 for 3 in their last 3 hires. And now, you know, we can look at some of the top options that, you know, are going to be available for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I actually put out a video earlier today breaking down my top Mike Tomlin replacements, and we can look at this list here real quick. I have Brian Dable, Mike McCarthy as some potential retread offensive minds that you could bring in, guys that have been head coaches in this league before, can handle a locker room, those sorts of things. If you want to go and get a younger defensive mind that has connections to the Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan coaching trees, Jeff Hafley, Robert Saleh, Chris Shula, certainly in that discussion. In fact, definitely keep your eye on Chris Shula. He's the grandson of Don Shula, and the Shula family does have a connection to the Knoll family, family, who obviously have a connection to the Steelers. Right now, Zachary Smith says that Chris Shula is the top name to watch, in his opinion, based on what he's heard. And Zach does have some pretty decent connections. And also, I think it was either Breer or somebody else was connecting Chris Shula as the top name that the Steelers would consider as well if Mike Tomlin decided to move on. So I would absolutely love Chris Shula, guys. He's obviously comes from a family of great coaching. Bloodline's there of one of the greatest head coaches of all time is his granddad, and he runs a modern defense. He has learned how to run a culture and a modern culture under head coach Sean McVay, who has really tutored some of the better head coaching hires in the National Football League as of late. And then also he's obviously got those connections to some of those top end offensive coaching talents that exist in the Sean McVay coaching tree. So you can get the right OC to develop your new quarterback. You got a defensive mind that kind of sticks with the Steelers theme of defensive head coaches. All three of their head coaching hires have been on the defensive side of the ball. He's young. He's got connections to the family. I do think at this point Chris Shula is probably the most likely hire for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but there are some other options that are going to be out there. Some underrated options, in my opinion, Anthony Campanelli and Anthony Weaver. I think that they've got the right mentality, and I think they bring really modern and good defensive systems, and they've got connections to excellent offensive minds to be the next OC here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Campanelli could bring in maybe like Grant Udinski from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And hell, if the Steelers wanted to hire Udinski as their head coach, I wouldn't mind that. He hasn't called plays and he's still really young, but the Jacksonville offensive coordinator is really, really impressive. So I would certainly consider him as well. But Clint Kubiak is kind of the big offensive mind that's in this year's class. Obviously Seattle has completely turned around their offense with him at the helm calling plays. Matt LaFleur, who knows? Green Bay, might let go of LaFleur if Mike Tomlin's interested in that job, and maybe they could switch places here, and we could get one of those Sean McVay whiz kids here in Pittsburgh. Matt LaFleur has a 65% plus win percentage as a head coach. Like, that would definitely be an upgrade, in my opinion, from Mike Tomlin. But my number one name, guys, has been and continues to be the guy that I would hire if I were the Pittsburgh Steelers is Brian Flores. And listen, man, Coach Flo, there's a lot of different people that have been saying we shouldn't have ever let him go. As some people wanted to fire Terrell Austin at the end of the 2022 season so that we could keep Coach Flo in the organization. I just think he'd be perfect for this job, guys, because he has instant credibility inside the Steelers building. There's a number of players that were in the building in 2022. They know Coach Flo. They know what he's about. So he has that instant credibility. And also, this next head coach, guys, they have to have a big personality and have some really good charisma, in my opinion, because replacing Mike Tomlin, who is like one of the most charismatic people you will ever meet in that meeting room, is going to be a tough task. And if you get a house mouse in there, you could lose the locker room pretty quickly. So you need somebody with a big personality and a lot of charisma. You need defensive. I think that Brian Flores is a defensive mastermind. I think he's a top 5 defensive play caller in football, and then he does have those ideal offensive coordinator connections. He has a connection to Grant Udinski if you want to go get him. Of course, he was in Minnesota for a couple of years. You could go with Josh McCown. You could go with Wes Phillips. You could go with any of these other Sean McVay guys because he obviously has that connection with Kevin O'Connell. So when I look at a guy like Brian Flores, he checks every single box, in my opinion, guys. There's a number of guys that I would, accept, and I think are acceptable hires. There's a lot of good coaching options out there. But for me, guys, if I make the decision today, I'm hiring Coach Brian Flores to be the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section who will be the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers now that Mike Tomlin is stepping away after a 19-year tenure here in Pittsburgh. Who will be the 4th head coach in Steelers history in the Super Bowl era? Now, just some final thoughts here before I say goodbye here, man. I just want to, thank Mike Tomlin for, his 19 years of service here in Pittsburgh. He's always going to be considered a Steelers legend, in my opinion. I know, he's going to be leaving on kind of bad terms with this fan base, but he won a Super Bowl in this city, and I think if you win a Super Bowl in this city as a head coach, Bill Cowher's team or not, you deserve to be held up there alongside Bill Cowher, who also won 1 Super Bowl here in Pittsburgh, and Chuck Noll is obviously the king, getting the dynasty in the 70s with us, but Mike Tomlin, for 19 years, never had a losing season. Every single year was worth watching as a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers with him as the head coach. And I think it's the right time to move on, and I'm excited about adding a new head coach here in Pittsburgh. But, I just want to say, thank you, Coach Tomlin, for everything you've provided for this organization over the last 2 decades. All right, that'll be it for our breaking news edition here on Steelers Talk. We're going to be jumping on live right now, so make sure you guys join us. We're going to be taking Super Chat questions. We're going to be breaking it all down. We're going to be talking about the top head coaching candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be a brand new rebuild here in Pittsburgh. A new day has arisen here in the Steel City. It's just getting started right here on Steelers Talks. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already.